Hello everyone, and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. We have a 4v4 for you guys today on Tough Jungle, and I'm playing with Maple83, Honda Hun, and Best Pony, who is also here as a guest on the channel.
Yep, here as a guest. That's my current
nice to have you.
nom de guerre anyways.
Yeah, so we were playing this game against your W2 form, which I still recommend you fill out, Quicksilver, Lowing, and Artemis, and that is a really tough set of opponents. I think Artemis and Pony play together from time to time, and Artemis is just really flipping good. Of course, Quicksilver's a Lieutenant Colonel. So we really had our work cut out for us, and I see you're going up here toward Elena, K52 and MI24V in the opener. It's a lot of points in helicopters.
Never good to get heli rushed in the Elena opener. Always a very unpleasant time if the enemy does do it, which is, pretty rare, but something you always want to be on guard against.
I mean, I guess my question for you, though, is USSR has, for example, the MI28, which has ATGMs as well, and that projects power more forward. Is that I guess why not choose something like that instead of the 24V? Is just defensive pick?
Yeah, it's just a defensive pick. The Ka-52 is only really out there because it's got recon and it's got the very nice missiles for longer range.
Yeah.
And the anti-radar too, which, it misses most of the time, but when it hits, it's always very funny, so.
Yeah, so, I mean, our strategy, by the way, here is so, it's going to look a little weird. I basically didn't contest Gregory because I expected what we're seeing over here on the left, which is Lowing and some support from Artemis over into Gregory, and I was sitting there going, I don't really know how to fight that. I'm not going to have enough anti-air there. It's going to be just... Well, we've played against Artemis before. I think you were with Artemis that game, and it was just double and Gregory really unpleasant. And I think our hope was to have a stronger foothold in Elena up to center, because, I mean, Gregory's a +1 zone, but center's a +2, so... That was sort of the strategy, is if we can hold these woods on the left and then push in there, then, I don't know, I'm still learning USSR, and it was a hell of a time trying to achieve that. So you see Lowing stuff here. He's a buddy of mine, plays basically only French National, and I'm just curious what you were thinking when you saw this deployment.
I was thinking... well, to be honest, not to hate too hard or anything, but I was thinking this is not going to be a bad time for me, right? Because it's a lot of infantry, no tanks in sight anywhere, and all I'm thinking is, this is a big open field with 2 towns. I have a Mista, I have MiGs with bombs on board, I have a bazillion tanks with pretty good armor. I can just, get rid of this. Oh, and also I spotted the CV, obviously. It's
right, so we've pinged that, and that's...
So what I was actually saying, I can remember, was like yelling about, hey, no one touch that, I'm gonna smack it with the Mista. And that's when, unfortunately, Artemis intervened and told him to move it.
Right, which, I mean, it's just a bad point, but, like, this is the thing. So we were fighting 2 very interesting decks over here, because your W2 form always takes, like, Mech 80 decks, and so the Cannon Jagdpanzer was just getting eaten by a BU, and, like, at this point in the game, I was pretty optimistic, right? Because we're pushing them back here. We have just endless infantry in Elena, but that's very little force projection. And I guess the thing to remember, so Lowing is actually the one who bought me the game, but he only has about 150 games played. And most of those were with a small group of friends. And yeah, I think this is his 2nd game in like the last 6 months. So it definitely was sort of a getting back into it sort of thing for him. Let's just take a quick look over on the right-hand side real quick. We have Honda Hun fighting over there, and he's the 3rd out of 3 that we usually see on the channel anyway. And that Feder fight is just pretty brutal. So you can see Prom S is giving good fire support. He's got Lichterschützen going around the side, Formosa around the side, LSTR around the side. My only qualm with this, just because I usually play in Feder and have okay track record there, is not having anti-tank infantry around the side with the Formosa. Because what people will do if they see you going around this end is they'll bring armor, like a BMP, well it's Blue 4 obviously, but heavier infantry fighting vehicles and cheap infantry to clear that out, and the Formosa will kill the infantry, but really struggle against the IFV. And Quicksilver, the Lieutenant Colonel, was also over here, so that's a lot of STRVs. I mean, he's just a really phenomenal player, obviously, and that's going to be just a really hard fight in Dimitri. So, I see your artillery's online. Did you get a lot of kills there?
Yeah, I killed the CV over there in the corner with the Mista, and then at that point someone had already queued up the Smirch, I think, on that, so they were firing away.
That was my Smirch. right. I was just trying to take freebie points. I mean, there were so many VABs in these sections of forest, and it's like, it's 15 points apiece, it's an autocannon. It's nothing I wanted to have there for a while, but This was interesting. So I'm starting to fight over on the left. W2 form mostly had stuff there, but every time I started to make progress, along came Artemis's unit. So you can see the Deccan's group on the left, and it was just a lot of stuff in that section of forest. Prevented me from really getting in and exploiting that gap. So let's see, T80UM, nice smoke micro from the Nonas.
Oh, terrible smoke micro, but good for me. Good for me. Bad for people who are actually good at the game. But yeah, that was about the best smoke micro I could manage. Right.
It's about the best I can manage as well. I mean, I'm just curious. So I don't like the Nonas just because, yeah, it's 5 HE, but it's so little ammunition, right? So if you're using them to protect your tanks, you run out of supply really quickly, right?
Yep. No, it's definitely true. You gotta keep that supply running. So it's a pain sometimes,
goofy.
but against like ATGMs or against say the VBL Mistral right there, it's really I was sure you were gonna lose those. Oh my god, I
think you told me about it during
too.
We were just like, get out. Yeah, I mean, a little bit of revenge there from the F4F, but we have so much anti-air here. Like at this point, if we're taking a look back, like, the initial offensive against center has failed. Elena clearly is capped for blue. That's not really a good thing for us. Gregory is lost. Like, there's a lot that's going wrong here, but I still felt like we had an okay position on the ground because at least between Lowing and W2's units, we were getting a fair number of kills. So, I don't know, this was one of those where we go pretty much the full length, and I feel like a couple different decisions could have made such a big change. And that's actually part of why I love watching the replays as much as I do. It's like, you see those, you make incremental improvements game after game after game, right? And it's one way to get better, at least that's the hope.
Yep. So, yeah, and you can see here, right, like I already know where the CV is. My CV is coming in, so it's Elena specifically at this point in the game. I'm thinking, yeah, I've got this unlocked. It'll take me like 5 minutes, but I'll have this zone completely secure by the end of it, and I'll be able to hold it for 20 plus minutes. They're not getting it back.
Right. The unfortunate thing with this map, though, is it's so easy for people to help each other out, right? So, and this is on me as well with losing Gregory, because that means one of their players pretty much hasn't had to pay attention to that zone for a while. And if I had gone in there like you're kind of supposed to, then there would be, micro over here, reinforcements over there, and instead we've basically condensed the field of play and allowed 4 people to really focus on 3 zones, one on the right, one in the middle, and then one in center, and that was probably a bit of a tactical error. So
yeah, it's one of those things where honestly on Gregory, the way that I always play that in terms of like a backup strategy is if I get pushed out like that, right, is I will start sending stuff across the river, especially as Eastern Bloc or Soviets where you have lots of stuff that can float. Because you can go and set up a little nasty little pocket of resistance in Gregory in that forest on the far side of the river, and it's very hard to dig you out of there if you can float enough stuff over and get it consolidated and then push in from that direction. Just because.
So I eventually do send BRDM 3s, and I think we'll see, but I think I get one like all the way up to here, just because they had forgotten about the zone for so long. But he got caught by a couple of tripwire units before I could find their command vehicle placement. I was so sad.
Right.
Yeah, it's like one of those almost had it sort of things. So Krotal here from Lowing is spotted in the open. You have to be careful about stuff like that because, I mean, this is really nice placement the Spetsnaz grew. Oh, yeah.
It's going to kill it in a second.
Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, I mean, vehicles are easier to spot in the woods, and Spetsnaz grew are pretty good for that sort of thing. You can see nice micro here as well with the guns all off. That means that this unit won't engage, won't get spotted. If they start pushing in, that Spetsnaz Greer is going to die last, because the Gorno will fire, the VDV will fire, the tanks will fire. Just really, really nice recon micro there. It's, good to watch those sorts of plays. So, on the right-hand side, Dimitri is slowly a losing fight, as it looks like Maple is really just, I mean, he was attacking this in earnest, and Quicksilver was defending very, very well. And having 2 players over here was pretty rough. So Han, at this point in time, has all of Fetter. Nice cap there as well. I mean, Moat shoots around the side. The Formosa I was ragging on earlier have actually been supported by LSTR-40. And this is a nice combination, because the LSTR, I mean, they have the Vampires, which have wonderful anti-tank 24 AP value, and the Iglas, which are decent range, decent accuracy for man-pads like that. And, of course, elite training will help them out as well with higher veterancy on the unit cards. I think, what is that? Is that elite or is that veteran? I can't quite see. 2, 3, 4.
I think that's just veteran, which honestly with special forces is honestly the way to go, just because they're special forces.
I mean, if it's Moto, or then maybe you can get away with up betting, just because I think the availability goes up anyway. So for example, when I play SA Moto, I take a card of SASF and SASF 90, and I just get 10 at elite for both, and it's wonderful. So Anton Dosberg coming in from Lowing. These guys are 50-point bombers, and 45-point bombers, and he loves them. But I don't think a ton of good contact there. Let's see, BTR-80A, T-80BU. I mean, that's a lot of armor for those bombs to try to get through. So it looks like that was kind of okay. And this offensive was beautiful, right? Because we're struggling over in most of the sides of the zone here. Ongoing fight over Dimitri, and if you can clear this out, that becomes a really big opportunity. So can you talk to me a little bit about your force composition here and the thought behind it?
Yeah. So basically, honestly, with most pushes of towns, the last thing you want is a lot of infantry, paradoxically, because infantry sucks and gets blown up very easily. But if you have, say, for example, the Mi-8 MTVs saved up from bringing the Gornestrelki 90, you have a few BTR-80As with Monostrelki 90 on board to actually spot stuff, and a Spetsnaz crew to spot stuff as well, and a bunch of tanks, then you have a lot of HE. The infantry will trip the infantry in the town. The HE slingers will sling HE at it and kill it all, right? Like, yeah.
Now this smoke was actually kind of nice for the other team, I think, because it was hiding some of their units. It was very unexpected. I don't know if that was Lowing or not. He doesn't usually use smoke.
I think it was Lowing, just because I don't remember having the known as fire smoke there, and I remember being annoyed because I had to bring back. I had to roll the BTR-80s up, right? I had to bring back the. There we go. There's the MTV coming up to. Because it finally got the angle.
Really nice support, and Legion is very expensive infantry. I mean, it's not Legion 90, right? But still 20 points per. 3 of them in that town is a 60-point hard point that's not really able to get his guns online. So. Just really good use of the BTR-80As. I don't tend to bring them just because, I don't know, they seem like they're kind of at an awkward price point.
Yeah!
The comparison that comes to mind is the VAB, right? So the French VAB has less armor, 2 compared to 1, but it's also 5 points cheaper. You still get an autocannon. I think they're still amphibious even. It feels like a lot without having additional guns. And then if you look at, I don't think I had any out here at the moment, but what's the next one up for the Soviets? Not the 80A, the BTR-90. That's what, 25 points?
Yeah, and that one's the really nice one. The 80As I honestly only bring because Artemis told me they were, a useful unit, and I was like,
nice kill. I think it's the other thing I didn't mention with price though is you do lose availability on the BTR-90s, so that's another consideration.
That's true.
Okay, so Leclerc back here from Lowing. Oh man,
it's not long for this world. I think the Su-27M is either already queued up or is about to be. But
a couple of nice kills there. I mean, that was what, 65-ish points of fire support just stripped off from the Leclerc. I mean, that's what he really excels at.
Yeah, it's true.
And then we were getting kind of counter batteried here, so I've lost my Smirch already. Oh no, there's my Smirch. Well, I lose my Smirch soon. You can see the Mista S here as well from Pony. And this is, that's 7 HE power. This is your usual 10-second aim time artillery. And at this moment, so again, just looking at the field, we had a good presence in Elena. We had enough in Dimitri. I mean, this was kind of goofy, right? You don't expect to see Formosa back there, LSTR back here. I only kind of wish that it had just gone right for this section of woods. It's a scary thing to make, and you sometimes do lose it, but the reinforcement point is right here. So the LSTR are actually a little bit too far back to get the Vampires online. And because there's a spawn point here, helicopters will come out on this side, so they're also a little too far away for the Igla. Which this is not to knock Han by any stretch. I mean, he's been on the channel many a time, and I do really enjoy playing with him. It's just sort of a, I don't know, I'm more of an impatient player than he is as well, so I probably would have thrown those units in, and they very well might have ended up dead, but I don't know, I feel like sometimes you have to take your chances. It can land you in hot water, but it's also, I don't know, I don't know about you, but I always feel like I hate losing and feeling like I could have done more, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely never a fun feeling, right?
Here's that BRDM-3.
Oh yeah, 67 fuel.
35 points. I was wrong on the price on that. Yeah, he's nearly out of fuel, but I figured with all the early helicopters on this side, it was probably in that town.
No, yeah, solid plan. Right.
We'll see in just a second. I'm actually going to peek at it and just see, because I don't recall where it was. But I'm about to run into... Oh yeah, so not in the town. Tricky placement there, honestly, because most people are going to fire at one of these two. And he's near it, but not in it. But some high-mount shoots and get in the way, and I didn't quite see him, so... Yeah. This is, by the way, a very sloppy game, and I'm doing it in part because it was still fun, and I think it's something that people struggle with sometimes, like losing and still enjoying it, right? a lot of people sort of get riled up with that sort of thing, and I have from time to time too, but this was one of those games where it was still a good time, and so I still wanted to cast it, especially with someone else who had such really good teamwork during the game. So you can see BTR 90's Spetsnaz Gru moving up this way, trying to get recon forward, and we really needed to get a toehold in Dimitri, because if you can stop the reinforcements in Dimitri, even just for a little bit, that becomes a lot easier to attack, and Feder has been pushed back really kind of incredibly. So we saw that hold earlier from Han, and Quicksilver has just been brutal in his push forward here. So just, I mean, more wheels, more infantry, and just a really light hold now for us in Feder. So with that said, let's take a look back in here. So you had the town, and then it looks like Lowing is pushing back in. How did that happen, and what was sort of the plan going forward from here?
The plan going forward here, to be honest, the fact that he had the Legion and stuff pushing the town didn't bother me very much, because that's infantry and not tanks, and my mist at this point was just basically auto-queued to fire at whatever showed up. You know, I'd see a unit, I'd fire at it. So
Sure.
I didn't intend to lose the town, but it was one of those things where I didn't particularly care if he pushed infantry back in, because you can see I've got the recon there, so if he pushes external,
Yeah.
I've got it. I've got the Gornos there, so if he tries to push south, I've got it, right?
There's also a UM back here and a T80U, so good fire if you need, if he starts pushing with
right.
Leclerc.
My perspective
And there
was
aren't
he
too many
wants to
places
just
to
burn
hide.
through platoons of infantry and waste points on that instead of buying more tanks. I mean, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I feel like I kind of let you down here a little bit. If I'd had just a bit more success on this side of the map, I think we could have really just gone forward and challenged that 2-point zone. But we do have Formosa from Han to Hun back here now. They've taken the long road all the way around. So keep in mind too, the spawn point for those units was back here, and they went all the way up, disembarked here, and have just been huffing it all the way around the side. It's so goofy. And these guys are, of course, recon infantry, so they should be able to get some pretty good optics forward, and if they can sneak in into this section of woods or the section back here, we're going to be able to see most of that home zone, so that could be a really crucial thing. Also, I think at this point, I don't know, I mean, you can see we actually had a bit of a miscommunication, so I have a command tank here, and Maple has a command tank, and this is just a waste of points, right? So this is bad teamwork on our part. 150 points here for me, 120 points here for him, sitting there as dead bodies because we hadn't first secured a bridgehead in Dimitri. Meanwhile, there's just been fighting going on in this forest forever, and Kor is grinding me out with Heimat Schutzen and Panzer Grenadier, which is a pretty good combination just for getting through Soviet infantry where Motostrelki just kind of don't seem to hold their weight. So I don't know, I think I use a lot more cheap infantry than you do. How do you get around needing, I mean, I guess the
Recon,
cost curve on
really.
Soviets, yeah,
Right?
yeah.
It's all about recon. If you have better recon, you're gonna win like 90% of the time, and that's in literally every Eugen game, to be honest. Like
And
it
you can
doesn't
see
matter
that
if
you
it's
have
like,
that here. So you have Gru, and then on my side I've lost most of my recon in, so I just have sort of a blind front here, which is never what we want to have, and the difference in success is kind of self-evident. Okay, so T-70BU fighting the Leclerc. It's a good engagement. Oh, that's mine. Right, yeah.
Yeah, that's yours, right? It's the T-80 is gonna push up, but the Su-27M is gonna come in and I think steal your kill.
Yeah, and
We'll
you can
see,
see this
but-
is my impatience embodied, because I mean I figured if he wasn't microing it, he would just shoot at the T-80s, and these guys are 65 points. Oh yeah, you did. Look at that.
Yep.
What a kill steal. Oh, I'm so mad. But the whole thought process behind that was just, yeah, I mean, I don't care if I lose a T-80 if I get the Leclerc as a trade, and then this was just a little unfortunate, so I'm trying to pull back to the woods. I didn't really have good smoke micro up, and that Peace Rhine got a piece of him, but the cluster finished him off. So between the two planes, nice response, and I lose that really expensive tank. Fortunately, yours was, I think, relatively unscathed from the cluster, but
Yep.
I don't know, we had the momentum, we lost the momentum, and then we got punished for it, which is never a good feeling in a game like this. So, okay, we're about 20 minutes in, we have about 20 minutes left. I'm going to go to speed 2 just for a bit here, because I think we do sort of settle into a little bit of a stalemate. But, I mean, we still are making forward progress. There's a Brennus on this side, Chasseurs and ATGMs. We're taking them out, and the planes are beginning to be a bit of a problem. So you have double Book M1 right here in the same place. I have a Tor. I usually see people spread these out. Was it just sort of map specific, or what's the idea there? Keeping them...
It was just sort of map specific, and also I had them hotkeyed so I could just move them after they shot, right? You'll notice that they don't die until well into the game, and I mean like
Right, and
well
there was
into the game.
counterfire.
Because I knew that they were going to counterfire, so every time they had to fire a salvo, I would just micro them back and forth between spots, and the other team never caught on.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. My tour was not so careful, but these guys also do serve a bit different purposes. So the Book M1, 2,800 meter range against helicopters, but better range against air, and the tour has 3,150 against helicopters. So the goal with having the tour here on my part was to support that push if we hadn't had to retreat, right? Because we get the tanks moving up, we get the tour there, it starts to fend off sort of answers in the air, and particularly helicopter answers in the air that people are prone to do as panic. So that was the intention. It probably wasn't the best use of points at the time, but I think that about sums up me playing USSR, so... man. Okay, so let's see... Yeah, Federer, this is becoming really sort of a bleeding ulcer on our whole game plan, right? Because if we had Federer ticking +1, with the cap in Elena, we'd be ticking +1 right now, and that's 43 points for us, 44 for the opponents, 98 for us. And you can see the second we lose that zone, that flips. And with 18 minutes left, we really can't afford that. So we do finally decap Dimitri. This is just kind of me being... I don't know, you ever do things just out of pure spite?
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely a few times I've bombed something knowing that was a one-way trip and it was a foolish decision in the long run.
That's what that was. I was just like, you know what, I'm going to come up here and decap it, and we'll pull their attention over here, and we'll just make them sort of grumpy about it, and then pull back and get the tank out. And you can see the LSTR, I didn't notice this during. That's beautiful. He took down not one, actually no, it was just one and a shadow. That was probably carrying something really valuable, and I'm just kind of curious. I wish I could ask him. So Oxidate Pakud is spotted back there from Artemis, LSTR moving forward. If they get kills on the beacons, that could be really beautiful. But, man, they have front guns, don't they? Yeah. Look at that.
And they're sprinting instead of Q moving, which
no.
First instinct, but yeah, not what you want right now, and you really need them to be...
Yeah, so he got him out of the way of the Entendant, but the Gazelle Canon is going to be enough to kill him, and I don't know, that... I think he was trying to close the beacons.
Yeah, I think Khan might have been able to get away with a little bit more if he'd just called for fire instead of moving right away with those, right?
Right,
like,
and then the Formosa aren't going to be able to kill this guy.
Exactly, but the Mista is already firing at them, right? Because the second it got spotted, I immediately queued up the Mista and started shooting at stuff.
And the thing to note is, too, it wasn't spotted by the LSTR, it was spotted by the Formosa over here. So if they had just stayed there, we would have been able to keep this spotted for a long time. Oh no, did you friendly fire?
Yeah,
oh, goodness.
a little bit. Oh,
it's 10-4, second shot.
Unfortunate.
I only wish I still had the Smirch, because my Smirch had just died, like, literally as this was spotted, I think. And that would be a nice answer to the Oxidate. Whereas the Mista, I mean, really good against infantry, really good against soft targets, but does struggle a little bit to get through armor. I mean, 7 HE, it's better than nothing, sure, but it's a bit of a rough engagement there. And now I'm losing this push, and this is what W2 form does. So he takes mech decks, he gets critical mass, and then he just sits back and lets you think that you can push him, because these Canon Jagdpanzers aren't very scary on their own, perhaps, but you get enough of them shooting at you, supported by a couple of Leopard 2s, it's a lot of guns downfield, especially supported by the Flakpanzers, which will mulch any sort of infantry that gets in range. So I was sitting there going, let's try this again, and then very much regretting it basically as soon as I tried, because BTRTs are not cheap. We do have some nice fire support from your which was... I mean, without that I think I would have lost this section of woods again, and I had to even retreat back the OBR 1989 just because the sheer number of guns shooting back at him. It really is a little bit galling to start losing to that, honestly. It's a bad feeling.
Yeah. Honestly, the support's incidental too. That was pushing up because I really wanted to
get
clear
into
out
this
that
section.
corner of tree line up there, right? Deny it as a place for recon and stuff,
But because you're engaging with my opponents over here, that could have been a kill on the 1A1, which would have kept the Gornostrelki alive. And as it is, I mean, it's just facing the wrong direction because you're having to try to bail me out. I don't know. Yep. This is... My confidence in Wargame fluctuates so much. Like the other day I beat a major, I actually beat a major and then a lieutenant colonel in quick succession. And then I come back and I struggle against, mechanized 1980 spam. And it really can throw you through a loop if you think, oh, well, I'm good with this, I'm bad with that, but at least I'm good with this. And then somebody takes it and just flips it right on its head. It's, I mean, it's an intense RTS, that's for sure. I just can't stand base building. I don't know about you, but like the other RTSs that have a lot of base building, it just drives me a little insane. I can't split my focus well enough for that.
No, yeah, I've never really been interested in any RTS that had base building in it. I think like the first RTS I really actually played for any sustained period of time would have been Steel Division Normandy 44, which is another Eugen game, but one that is not beloved by the wargame community.
Yeah, this is, believe it or not, this is the only RTS that I play. I don't do any other RTS at all. Unless you count Europa Universalis 4, which I don't, because, I mean, yeah, it's quote-unquote real-time as the days pass by, but it's, like, it's very different. It's grand strategy, it's just a little bit different. So I'm pushing back some assaults here from W2 form on this side, and this is the inverse of what we had earlier. So my VDV-90 are getting a little bit, oh geez, I hate when it does that, are getting a little bit mortared, but Sapori should be able to clear them out. I have enough, like, if I push in here, I get hit by a firing concave. If he pushes in there, he gets hit by a firing concave. It was very much détente, but it was détente that gave the blue 14 the +1 on the side, so that does, in the end, benefit them. And you can see, since we haven't recapped Feder, this has just been a long +1 bleed, and that translates to 15 points a minute, which is just extending the blue 4 lead now, which, I don't know, that, considering we were up at the start, considering the early success, and just the constant cap of Elena, like, you don't see this very often, at least I don't, where a team loses while owning Elena. Have you seen that before, or not so much?
I've seen it before, but it's rare. It really requires the loss of both, well, exactly what we see, the loss of Gregory and Fedor, which is very difficult to pull off on the other side of this map, right?
Oh, come to think of it, I think my team had Elena most of the game this last one, and we also lost. But that was a really hard fight, right? Because we had Rara fighting against Gatsu and Feder, then I was trying to fight Crippling between Dimitri and Ivan, and I think Han just kind of got crumpled a little bit at the opener, and it's hard to recover from that. He was fighting against Artemis, I think.
Yeah, oh.
Yeah.
That's also, fighting against Artemis is always suffering.
A little rough. I gotta be honest, I was a tad annoyed the 38th parallel game that we had the other day, because, you know, I had those paratroopers forward, and you spotted them, and I was like, oh, okay, best ponies over here, right? And then it turns out it was Artemis's full opener, plus about 300 points of your helicopters, plus about 400 points from Quicksilver, a lieutenant flipping colonel on the ground. And I was like, alright, I definitely signed up to fight nearly 2,000 points worth of stuff from players at and better than I am. So I was like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna lose this zone, and I was certain of it from about 15 seconds into getting contact with the enemy, which is, it's always a bad feeling, but I mean, team games, you have to do that sort of doubling up on different zones. It's how you win, right? Like, NBK's team is famous for that in the competitive scene, because I mean, if you have 3 lanes and you play against NBK's team, they're gonna do a light hold on 2 of them and pound through the 3rd, just all 3 of them at once. And if you guess wrong, that's kind of just game over. So, side note, I do want to say this. I know people were commenting recently about me asking for subscribers and all that, and it does make me feel dirty, but it's just how YouTube is. And I explained this in the comment as well. It's like, if you have less than 1,000 subscribers, they give you nothing. And this is a hobby of mine. It's one I spend a fair amount of time on and really enjoy. And it kind of, it's not my favorite thing that I do it and YouTube says, oh, you're just a little bit too small. So I guess what I would ask is, about 2/3 of the audience is not subscribed, and if we flip that, then we get over 1,000 subscribers pretty easy. So if you feel like it, just hit the share, subscribe, and all that YouTuber nonsense. And now that I feel absolutely dirty for making this video, then we can continue on. So this was sort of our endgame push, and I have an OBR, you have a lot of infantry. I think in the chat at the time I was just yelling, you know, let's go, it's now or never kind of thing. What did you think of that plan / the urgency? Like, did you think this was the time, or not so much?
I think this was definitely the time. I did not believe that we were going to succeed in pushing into center, just because pushing center is essentially a suicidal waste of time 99.999% of the time repeating. Right?
Especially if we don't have this forest, which I'd already lost. Like, you can see the Leopard 2s are flanking. If we had had them here, that would have been better, but they're getting side shots on, they're cutting off the reinforcement route. Like, I don't know.
Poor Motostrelki.
I so wanted this to work, and I feel like if I had held here, maybe then we could have, just because, I mean, your Gornestrelky up there, we had some good guns, just such a disappointment. And then I'm being a sneaky bastard, so I I feel like I don't play a game these days where I don't try to sneak something around the sides, and I have a Ka-52 and an Mi-28 over here just because the conventional fight hadn't won for long enough, where I was just sitting there going, you know, if we can't take this +2, let's take Anna if we can, let's take, you know, anything we can around the back. Han had some good success sneaking things around, and that sort of inspired me to try the same thing here and just come around. So you can see the K-52s and Mi-28s. I'm diving into Anna, trying to find a command vehicle there. Usually, from what I've seen, it's pretty far in the back, but people don't like that because it can get flanked easy, so sort of sometimes in these towns. But if it's in the towns, I'm going to have a really hard time spotting it. So we did instead see an auxiliary Picud in center, and that's what the Mi-28 is going after. You can see the ACGMs are actually turned off, so I don't give away my position until I have a shot. But we did, unfortunately, there was some IRAA infantry in those sections of woods. So we take down center, that gives us back a +1 with 8 minutes left. Technically speaking, that would be enough time. We need about 4 minutes at a +1 to tie. And then I was trying to move back to get Anna as well, but Artemis responds to the Hornet, the splash damage nearly kills my Mi-28, and Quicksilver's Viggen finishes the job there. So down on points for us, but only before you consider that the Blue 4 team also has to rebuy a command vehicle, right? So that's why those are so valuable. You kill 100 and some points worth of commands, they have to rebuy it, you've forced out another 100 and some points that they're not putting in the front line. So that, I felt like, gave us, I don't know, it gave us a last gasp kind of thing, just because they had to recap this. It was going to be a distraction, if only for a minute, in Dimitri. And Maple 83 was putting up a very good fight here, just the whole game, never giving up on taking the zone. I only wish that his Chun Maho had been up here with this push, right? Because you get the Commandosi up here, you get the Jiokosdai, and we had some good mortar support. I think you were helping with the artillery a little bit as well. And if he had been up here to countercap, that would have been able to potentially make this a more sustainable position. So, let's switch back to your perspective here. And then you have VDV-90 really far forward. Does Lowing ever really get back in, or is this sort of just a done deal? You held the zone.
Oh no,
you're
gonna see in the last few minutes when we've got the combined forces of Artemis, Lowing, and I think a little bit of Quicksilver as well pushing it. They get the last like 6 minutes or so are real suffering hours for me, because you're gonna see the combined forces of Blue 4 essentially descend on Elena.
Which is not your fault at all. Like, that sort of engagement means that your allies, namely me, because I think I was down about 2,000 points in value, I just got hammered, have messed up, right? So if you're ever fighting that much in the late game, it means that your allies are down points. And I know this is Conquest. People say, you know, Conquest doesn't really matter if you're down points so long as you win the zones. That's true to an extent. And the to an extent comes in that late game when the other team just has enough points and realize that, yeah, I mean, they can go through, so why not, right? And that sort of is where the Blue 4 team is right now. We're still taking +2. We're closing the gap faster than you might think. And even just a little bit of success here in Dimitri could have flipped this on its head and gotten us the win. Unless they do something brutal, unless they do something urgent. And the pushback in Elena is sort of the shortest way, right? So if they recap center, that's great. And then if they just pound right through Elena, that gets them a +1. I mean, if they countercap it, if they push it out completely, a +2 for that sort of side of the field. So I guess in hindsight, it makes sense that they would try and go in against Elena that way. And my bad idea trying to go towards center has cleared out a lot of your support. So, sorry.
Oh, I didn't even see those stupid BTRDs driving it. Oh.
Wait, which side?
Right there! Driving to the tree line!
Yeah, VDV getting taken out by lepers. I thought those were mine at the time. I actually moused over them, tried to unload, and I was like, oh, those are orange. Oh,
they were supposed to be going to the T80UM to go reinforce the tree line up there, but I guess they said, well, that's the delightful thing about pathing in this game, is sometimes units drive the way that makes sense, other times their route selection is less than stellar. Yeah,
and you're just going to have a bad time. And I think no map shows that better than Highway to Seoul, because of the side spawns. Oh. So you can send stuff in just across your opponent's entire front line. Okay, so Lowing here is using reinforcements from Dimitri, and I think that was a bit of an unexpected angle, so he had pretty good success. I only wish the rocket pods had hit the Commando's Para instead of the Brennus.
Yep. Fortunately, that's what the big line 29S is for.
Yeah, fair. Fair, fair, fair. I've never really used that guy. 130 points. I mean, one of the more cost-effective bombers for the Soviets, I guess. I'm so wary of using the plane tab because 200 points in a plane means you have to get 200 points in kills to have it pay off, and that's always a challenge.
Yep.
Brennus, by the way, this is one of Lowing's favorite tanks, and I always grump at him for it because it doesn't have a stabilizer. The AP is okay, but not great. The frontal armor is okay, but not great. Like, Israel does it better. USA does it better. Other options in France and Eurocorps do it better. But there, that autocannon got a kill, so that at least was worthwhile. And I think the Cobra, was that Artemis or was that Quicksilver? Let's see, Artemis, yeah.
That was Artemis, yeah. This is, Artemis is at this point supporting Lowing with helicopters. The M1A1 before was hers as well. The VDV-90 knocked out after a few shots. This VDV-91 squad up there, they are going to keep holding the line, but now that the XR Kut is there, and now that the VTTs are there with more infantry, it's pretty rough.
Yeah, I mean, if I know Lowing, these are going to be carrying 3 Chasseurs, if you're lucky, and if you're not, they're going to be carrying 3 Legions. So let's see what we had in that section. Man, Recon, not really... Goodness gracious, I can't even see what those are. Come on. Let's go to neutral. Yeah, Chasseur.
Yeah, Chasseur.
I did not know what that meant for a long time. Apparently, well, according to Lowing, that means hunters in French. Which is, it's kind of cool, right? It's like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and there comes the HAD, and my core, of course, at this point has been shelled, and I think the Bucks have finally also been shelled to death.
Right, my tour was fine, it was just out of ammunition, and for whatever reason was not, like, he's calm, he's right next to your resupply truck, but he's not resupplying. And
yeah, sometimes it's just one of them needs to move, basically, because it just gets messed up, and there's the poor TDU is gonna... It's no fuel, so it can't go anywhere.
Otherwise, we had range on it, and I was sitting there at the time, like, I was looking at the tour going, no, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, and it just refused to take any more ammunition, and that could have killed the Tiger had. It would have been very, very helpful. So we did actually spot the command vehicle from Quicksilver. This is my cluster. I assumed he would drive it into the woods here, but he didn't. He left it right back, and that denied us a +2, where if we had held that +2 for another 2 minutes, there we go. Like, that would have been a much better engagement for us.
And there's the suicidal MiG trying to finish the job.
Right, right, right. But, I mean,
No
that's
dice, no.
HE, right?
Yeah, it's not enough HE, unfortunately.
Yeah, so the strip BV down to 4, so, I mean, that's a lot of good progress. If the clustering on your bombs had been a little bit tighter, that would have been a kill. It was really unfortunate, and I was all out of cluster planes at that point as well, so I couldn't do anything about it. It was really unfortunate, because that CV was, like, the last... I don't know. We had so many last gasps. I feel like this game really could have gone very differently with a couple of different decisions. Well, we are nearing the end, and I'm going to stay on your selection there so that we can see a couple of MVP units in the end screen. And what ended up being just a really good fight. So I mean, I think we were all kind of expecting a really hard game with Quicksilver and Artemis on the Blue 4 team. But I think, you know, we comported ourselves relatively well, at least you did and Maple83 did. I had some major issues with overall strategy and deployment there, but hey, you live and you learn, and you hope to do better next time. So let's take a look. Kills are 14,074 for blue, 12,085 for red, and actually, Han to Han, you guys, the two of you guys were the highlights of our team. I went very negative, and Maple83 also went pretty negative. So star units are going to be the T80U, a couple of Legion, 10 RC. I'm looking for, what was it? Jeez, BTR-80A with the P4 PC, Book M1s, lots of kills. Each one of those Super Ensemble SAMs are 120 points. Peace Rhine's 100, Ensemble is another 45. That Book M1 was just beautiful. And that's only one of them too, so the other one should be in here separately. Jaguar A and a Hornet. Oh my goodness. Okay, now I see why your kill list is so good. I feel bad about that Jaguar,
by the way, just because the way that it died was I jokingly suggested, oh, you gotta get the Jaguar, you gotta circle closer if you wanna kill the Bucks with the seed, because I had the radar off, of course, and then he
taunts
actually
the opponent
set the
and
thing
it
right
works.
over them, and it was like, I feel bad, but I'm still hitting the button.
Oh man, that's so rough. That's so rough. T80U, kill list over a page, always a good thing. Milan F2s, Vabs. I always think it's really funny when tanks kill ATGM teams, but it happens more often than you think sometimes. Mista did alright. The Servals are weird, but I think they're 20-25 points. 27M. Yeah, alright, well hey, that's all we've got for today. Thank you guys for hanging around, and many thanks to my guest, Best Pony. Always a pleasure to play with and against.